From this 1966 7-liter V8 engine that your grandpa fell in love with, to this 2023 Hellcat Redeye that produced 797 horsepower. Here's a history of the Dodge Charger. The year is 1966 in a town called Detroit in the state of Michigan. The employees at Dodge are watching the rise in popularity in muscle cars such as the Chevrolet Corvette and the Ford Mustang, and they want some of that action with their own version of a muscle car. And even though they already had the Dodge Coronet in their lineup, which had trims that came with a 447.2 liter V8 engine, they decided that they instead needed a new design to attract the baby boomers that were becoming adults and could afford cars during this time. And that's exactly when they released their first ever Dodge Charger in the year 1966, with models coming in with a 5.2 liter V8 engine or even the bigger 7.2 liter V8 Hemi engines for an extra charge. But people couldn't still really differentiate this car from the Dodge Coronet, so Dodge decided to redesign the body of the Dodge Chargers in 1968, featuring curves around the front fender and also the rear quarter panels. And fortunately for Dodge, this car became an instant hit among all buyers, which prompted Dodge to make 96,100 Dodge Chargers in the year 1968 alone. It was also in 1968 that Dodge failed to beat the Ford cars in NASCAR on the High Banks oval tracks with their Dodge Charger 500, and Dodge decided to make a more aerodynamic car so they could finally beat their rivals. And that's exactly when they decided to come out with this beautiful Dodge Charger Daytona designed specifically for NASCAR racing, hence the name Daytona. This car was able to bring glory back to Dodge by defeating their rivals in the NASCAR race in 1969. But as you can tell, this car doesn't look like any of the other Dodge Chargers. And at the time, Dodge's brother company Plymouth wanted a race car, so Dodge decided to move this car over to Plymouth and rename the car Plymouth Superbird, and the Dodge Chargers moved on to their third generations with the introduction of the 1971 Dodge Charger Super Bee, featuring a new split grille that you could still purchase with a 7.2 liter V8 engine. And this was also the final production year of the Dodge Coronet, as Dodge decided to merge the Chargers and the Coronets into one line of car. But what Dodge or his competitors could not see coming was the 1973 oil crisis, which plummeted the sales of gas-guzzling muscle cars as people just could not afford them anymore. So Dodge had to get productive with their fourth generation of the Dodge Chargers, which was now being advertised as more of a luxury car than a pony car. And you could tell the changes made to the Dodge Charger by just looking at it, as this car doesn't necessarily scream fast as the older models did, and because people previously associated the name Charger with speed, they just couldn't bring themselves to purchase this new luxury Charger, just like how we can't bring ourselves to purchase this new EV Charger coming out in 2025. And because of that, the sales plummeted and Dodge cut production in 1978 and instead used this body style to produce its Dodge Magnums, which immediately saw increased sales. And now with the 1980s approaching and people still not being able to afford V8 cars, Dodge decided to roll out its fifth generation of the Dodge Charger, which honestly looks nothing like a Dodge anyways. And if I didn't know about this car and you asked me what the brand of this car was, I would probably tell you it's like a Toyota or a Honda, but I definitely wouldn't be able to tell you that it's a Dodge. But then again, Dodge just wanted to keep up with the demand at the time, which was these smaller Japanese cars that were better on fuel efficiency. And also, side note, in 1983, Carroll Shelby himself modified this Dodge Charger and named it the Dodge Shelby Charger, which produced 107 horsepower from a 2.2 liter inline turbo 4-cylinder engine, which was good numbers for the time. But unfortunately, these cars didn't sell so well either, so Dodge cut production of the Dodge Charger once again in 1987. And it would take almost 20 years for us fans to receive the 6th generation Dodge Charger, which was released in 2006. But this time the Dodge Charger was a 4-door sedan instead of a coupe like its previous generations. But Dodge made everything feel better with the release of the SRT8 trim the same year, which produced 425 horsepower from a 6.1 liter V8 engine. And after 4 years of being in production, Dodge announced its 7th generation Dodge Chargers, which saw updates on the exterior of the car and the interior. And they also brought back the Super Bee name after all these years under 2012 Dodge Chargers, which now produce 475 horsepower from a 6.4 liter V8 engine. But Dodge didn't stop there, as in 2015 they announced the release of the Dodge Charger Hellcats, which produced a massive 707 horsepower from a 6.2 liter supercharged V8 engine. And later in 2020 they announced the Dodge Charger Hellcat Redeye wide body to their lineup, producing a massive 797 horsepower. And also an honorable mention will be the Dodge Charger King Daytona, which was a part of the Last Call edition, and that car produces 807 horsepower from the same V8 engine. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe for more content.